Culloden.
So many lives lost here, so many men from so many clans were laid to rest. Ludovic Grant was a Hanoverian and Patrick, my ancestor, was a Jacobite. About 80 men from Glenurquhart fought at the battle. I can show you where they stood if you like. The Grants of Glenurquhart stood within the ranks of the MacDonalds at the Battle of Culloden. The MacDonalds usually fought on the right in Scottish armies, but on this occasion they were placed on the left. However, this turned out to be a blessing, because if they had fought in their usual position at Culloden, they most probably wouldn't have survived, as that is where the fighting was most severe and where most of the Jacobites were killed. And I probably wouldn't be here now talking to you. Patrick, my ancestor, escaped the battlefield and hid at Lochletter in the woodlands there. For near on 14 months he hid away until the amnesty in June of 1747. Ludovic Grant was a great Hanoverian. He and his men were part of the rounding up of the rebels that survived the Battle of Culloden. Ludovic, with the permission of the Duke of Cumberland, marched to Glenurquhart with 800 men, and over the next 5 days sought the rebel Grants. But all they managed to capture was 3 men. How could 800 men only find 3 men? The result was not going to save his neck, because Ludovic was in trouble with the Duke of Cumberland, because some of his people had signed a bond of neutrality with the Jacobite forces, and because of this, Cumberland viewed them as traitors. So he appealed to Alexander Grant of Shugley, as a man of rank and figure within the community, to go out and convince the men who were hiding to come in and surrender to him. Ludovic Grant promised the rebels that if they came to Inverness and handed in their arms, then they would safely return to their own homes. 84 men took him at his word, 68 men from Glenmoriston and 16 from Glenurquhart. But when the men went to Inverness, Ludovic betrayed them and went back on his word and had them imprisoned in the Gaelic Church on Church Street, which still stands there today as a second-hand bookshop. Several weeks later, they were all shipped to Tilbury Docks outside London. 9 months later, those that survived without any sort of trial being given were then sent to Barbados to work as indentured slaves. They were transported on ships, big ships, packed full. There were no toilets or fresh water. It was a miserable journey, made worse because the ships were packed with disease too. Only 18 of the 84 men who had been betrayed by Ludovic survived, and only 7 of them ever managed to return home to Scotland. Fortunately, Patrick and his brother Alexander never surrendered, and he, along with his cousins, hid for many months in the woods of Lochletter and Glenurquhart. But when he returned to Glenurquhart after the amnesty, everything was in ruin. His men and his fortune were lost.